Hi there everybody, this is David, and I hate to interrupt your regularly scheduled Dragon Quest III HD remake programming because we have some breaking news from the producer about Dragon Quest III HD remake. Yeah, this is a kind of a meta thing going on right here, but he's talking about what game he wants to see remade in HD2D next, and there might be a little bit of clues hanging around the game room. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking all about this interview today, and I do think that that's worth a sub, as I do try my hardest to hit 100,000 subscribers. With your help, your like, and your sub, I just know that I can get there. Thank you so much for that. And so all this information comes from an article in Inverse. There was a really nice in-depth interview with the producer of Dragon Quest III HD2D Remake, Masaki Hayasaka. And basically he talks about what was going on with Dragon Quest III, the challenges of making an HD2D game, and what game he wants to see next. And in answering that question, he says, "It's not like we have concrete plans for this, but personally, I would love to see Final Fantasy VI. After all, Octopath Traveler was the first HD2D title, and it was developed while referencing Final Fantasy VI because that game had the highest quality pixel art. So, I would love to see how the game that we referenced would look with the HD2D style. But adapting a game into the HD2D style is not such a simple task, and he thinks that the working with this style requires a higher sense of artistic sensibility. And that is doubly true when you're not just making something new, but adapting a game that already has a pre-established look and feel. That is why this game took so long from being announced to actually coming out, because they did have to change a lot of things to make sure that it was, good to the source material. And I know that Final Fantasy VI has been remade quite a few times in just the past couple of years. First, we got that mobile remake, which they also put out on the PC, which was like, and nobody liked that. Then we got the Pixel remasters that came out that were just fan-fricking-tastic. And there's a little Easter egg in the Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remastered. Is the only one of all the Pixel Remastered games that actually has an HD2D integration. It's during the opera scene with Celeste. The whole thing is done in an HD 2D style. So they were almost like playing with it, and they were seeing what could be done. So that's really cool. And if they did it there in the opera scene, we know that they can do it for the full game. And while I am talking about remakes, I would like to just say this, because this is just bothersome. Before I get further into this interview, and we are going to talk more about this interview here, but to me, and I know that it doesn't just bother me, I know that it bothers y'all too, because I've heard it in the comments, and it just bothers me as a gamer. If you are remaking a game, you shouldn't be cutting content from previous remakes of the game. This goes for Dragon Quest III, and it also goes for the Pixel remasters, because for the Game Boy Advance versions of 4, 5, and 6, there was extra content, and all that extra content was left on the cutting room floor. With the Pixel remasters, the extra bonus dungeons, the extra espers, things like that, the job classes of 5, all that kind of stuff was left on the cutting room floor when it came to the Pixel remasters. And then the same thing happened here with Dragon Quest III. Things that were left on the cutting room floor were the monster medals of the Game Boy Color version, and granted, they were quite a grind, but still, they were there, and they were nice for people who wanted them. And then the other thing was the Pachisi tracks. Those were left on the cutting room floor as well. So that is rather unfortunate that that happened, but hopefully, they will learn from their mistakes, and they, will hear us, will be loud, and will be clamoring and saying, hey, you're going to remake the game, but please make it a definitive version, include everything, don't cut any content. So hopefully, if they do remake Final Fantasy VI, they will include the content from the Game Boy Advance games as well. So then he goes on to talk about Dragon Quest III and says, why did you remake Dragon Quest III? If you wanted to remake Final Fantasy VI, why did you remake Dragon Quest III? And he says that it became very popular and accepted by many people whenever they created Octopath Traveler. So the idea of Dragon Quest III remaking in HD 2D was brought up within their company. and they said the HD2D graphics were the most suitable style for remaking the Urza trilogy, which are the earliest titles in the Dragon Quest series. Now that this art style is born, we felt that it was the perfect timing for a remake. Rejuvenating a user base is a challenge that accompanies any title within an IP with a long-standing history, and Dragon Quest is no exception. If you're going to say that Dragon Quest is no exception, that also means that Final Fantasy is no exception. So we really do need to rejuvenate those older titles as well. To put it bluntly, if we're unable to rejuvenate the users, the IP will undoubtedly disappear. In that sense, we were conscious of the fact that this remake of the Urza trilogy would be a good entry point to attract a new user base, and we believe doing so is very important for this IP. So they're trying to attract new users, new, younger users in Japan, attracting the older users and younger users in the West as well for this, and I think it's a great idea, especially because Dragon Quest XI came out and there was a tie-in with the Urza trilogy at the end of Dragon Quest XI, no spoilers. But there was a tie-in there, so people might want to be like, hey, who's this Erdrick? What's going on? What is all this? So by remaking this game, people can learn that and can figure that out. Also, just as a side note, they're talking about rejuvenating an IP. Square Enix owns one particular IP that I really love that came out on the SNES that has been dead in the water since the Nintendo DS, and that's the Lufia series. Imagine an HD2D remake of Lufia 2 Rise of the Sinistrals. Let's revive that franchise, shall we? It is so freaking good, and it definitely does deserve that revival. He then goes on to talk about Dragon Quest 1 and 2, which we know is coming out next year. We don't have a release date on it, and he says that he can't share any further information on that either, but he is diligently working on the remake, so please do look forward to that. So this is just very exciting news, and I, for one, am totally looking forward to not just Final Fantasy VI coming out in the HD2D style, but all of the first 6 Final Fantasies coming out in an HD2D style. Maybe having a collection of those, just the same way as we are kind of getting a collection of the Dragon Quest trilogy or of the Pix remasters that came out. Put these games out and just make them absolutely beautiful. We know that Square Enix is really focusing on the remake market. We know that a Saga Frontier 2 remake is coming out. We know that Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven just came out. And that didn't use an HD2D style, but it used kind of a Trials of Mana cartoony, cel-shaded style. And just imagine maybe Final Fantasy going that route. Or even better, and I do think it's more fitting, Chrono Trigger going that route. They have struck gold with the Trials of Mana remake, and with the Visions of Mana that they came out with, and with Romancing Saga 2. So why can't they strike gold again with a Chrono Trigger remake? These remakes are big business. Square Enix is going all into it, going all into their classic library, and I am here for it. Now I want to hear from y'all. What do you think about this news? Are you excited for a possible Final Fantasy VI HD 2D remake? I know that I am. Let me know in the comments, and as always, have a good day.